All right, today we're diving into Honduras, a key U.S. partner in Central America that's really standing on a knife's edge.
For decades, Honduras has been a close ally of the United States. But right now, the country is at this incredibly pivotal moment, grappling with some deep instability that's sending shockwaves across the entire region.
So the big question we're asking in this explainer is this. Can the country's democratic institutions actually withstand the immense pressure they're facing, both from the inside and from the outside?
And the most immediate flashpoint where all this pressure is coming to a head is the country's upcoming general election.
The stage is all set for a tight, three-way presidential race on November 30th. You've got Rixi Moncada from the ruling Libre Party, Nasre Asura from the National Party, and the well-known media personality Salvador Nostrala. But, and this is a big but, the primary elections back in March were just plagued by logistical failures, which raised some serious red flags about how the general election is going to go.
And the concerns are really widespread, coming from both Hondurans and international observers. We're talking about everything from fears of political violence to the very real possibility that criminal groups could be financing campaigns. It's all casting this dark shadow over whether the election can be legitimate.
Now, these election worries, they don't just pop up out of nowhere, right? They're really a symptom of a democracy that has been under some severe strain for years.
When President Castro came to power, she made this really powerful promise to restore democratic norms, especially after years of corruption and the erosion of checks and balances under the previous government. However, that promise has run into some serious challenges. Critics point to issues like nepotism, with family members in high-level posts. A key pledge, a UN-backed anti-corruption mission, has totally stalled. And at the same time, reports of intimidation against political opponents and journalists seem to be on the rise.
And look, this political instability, it's not just some abstract political science concept. It has a direct and often very painful impact on the daily lives of Hondurans, affecting both their wallets and their personal safety.
To really understand the reality on the ground for folks, you've just got to look at the numbers.
Get this, in 2024, nearly 63% of the population was living in poverty. Now, that is an improvement from its peak right after the pandemic, but it's a rate that remains stubbornly higher than it was before 2020.
Okay, now on the security front, there is some good news. The country's homicide rate has seen a pretty significant drop, falling from a staggering 41.7 per 100,000 people in 2021 down to 26.1. But that's not the whole story.
Yeah, the situation is really complex, because while homicides are down, the crime of extortion has reportedly surged by 14%, and that hits small businesses and just ordinary citizens incredibly hard.
And this tough-on-crime approach is being enforced through what's called a state of exception. It's a pretty controversial policy that actually suspends some constitutional rights, like freedom of movement, in most of the country, all to give security forces more freedom to act.
All right, so, as if all of that wasn't enough, there's another huge layer of pressure here. The complex and, let's be honest, often contradictory relationship that Honduras has with its most powerful partner, the United States.
It's this real push and pull. On one hand, the two countries are cooperating on critical issues like extraditions and accepting deportations. But on the other hand, there's major friction, including a new U.S. tariff and the termination of temporary protected status, a program that protects tens of thousands of Hondurans from deportation.
And if you want to understand the real stakes in this relationship, all you have to do is follow the money. $9.7 billion. That's how much money was sent to Honduras in remittances in 2024, and the vast majority of that came from the United States.
I mean, that money is an economic lifeline. It makes up over a quarter of the country's entire GDP. So what this means is that any U.S. policy on migration isn't just political. For Honduras, it's literally a matter of economic survival.
So you have all these pressures, the political fragility, the economic hardship, the crime, that complicated foreign partnerships, and they're all converging on one single point in time. You've got these internal strains from a fragile democracy and poverty just colliding with the external pressures from U.S. policy. And the flashpoint for this collision? It's the 2025 election, which is really shaping up to be a moment of truth for the entire nation's future. And this leaves us with the critical question that observers all around the world are asking. As this high-stakes election unfolds, will Honduras choose a path toward greater stability, or will it slide even deeper into crisis?